Hello everyone, this is Mr. Chrome Stallion and we have your instrument cluster pod of Royal Enfield Thunderbird Twinspark. So this pod has a tachometer and a fuel gauge. So this pod stopped working while riding my motorcycle, and to rectify the issue I had to halfway remove the body of my motorcycle to check the wiring harness with help of the multimeter. If we turn the backside of this pod, we can see total of 6 points over here, 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 here and here. Okay, so these 3 points belong to the tachometer and these 3 points belong to the fuel gauge. So initial finding was that this point was giving me 12 volts positive supply after connecting it to the negative, other point of the negative of the multimeter, which gave me an impression that I was not getting the correct input from the stator coil. But while checking this point as well, I got some 1 volts to 2 volts of a random reading while giving a throttle on an ideal motorcycle, which gave me an impression that the pod itself is not working while I'm getting all the supplies on these wire. So after removing this pod, I decided to cut it off from here. You can see a cut mark completely on the circumference. And while checking the circuit board behind the tachometer, I noticed one thing. There were actual marking on the 3 points of the tachometer. So I'll show you in the image. So if we come back here, which states that this one is the actual signal from the stator coil, this is the battery negative or common negative as you can say, and this one over here is the ignition, that is a positive from the battery supply. So this one and this one are the positive supply for both the tachometer and the fuel gauge, and these two are the sender signals for the fuel gauge sensors. And finally, after getting to know this circuit diagram behind the circuit board, I was able to conclude what the actual issue was. I also tested it myself first, so just to check if I'm on the right path, and yes, the tachometer did jump to life instantly. So I'm going to show you where the exactly issue was. To find this issue, I had to halfly strip open my motorcycle. So by removing the seat and the headlight dome, I had to check the TCI unit. The TCI unit over here, all the wirings that are coming from the stator cables, as well as the fuel gauge coupler over here. I'll show you how to test the fuel gauge as well independently after completing this entire setup. So as of now, the issue resides not over here, but exactly behind this headlight dome. To fix this issue, it was actually not required to strip down the motorcycle halfway if the entire wiring diagram was easily available. But I tried searching many online forums, but exact wiring diagram for this specific model, that is Thunderbird Twinspark, was not available. So I had to do it myself manually by identifying each and every wire that goes down to this instrument cluster as well as from the TCI unit. Now you could see some extra wires over here. Those wires belong to the auxiliary light setup and the wiring harness, custom wiring harness that I have installed previously. So I'll explain these wiring harness later, but we'll just concentrate on the tachometer issue and the fuel gauge issue currently that we are facing. So you can see here are the wires that goes directly to the coupler. All these color coding belong to the specific functions. So, and you can take a closer look for these wires over here. We have overall 6 wires. So the yellow one is a signal from the stator coil that is used for the tachometer. The 2 black wires are the negative, common negative for the tachometer as well as the fuel gauge. And if you see over here, the wire with the white and yellow strips. Now this wire is the sender signal wire that goes directly to the fuel gauge sensor that is inside the tank. So these two, one black and one yellow white, these 2 wires will be for the sensor signal. This negative wire and one yellow wire, this will be for the tachometer, and these 2 wires, the red and white stripped, now these belong to the ignition, that is the positive coming from the battery after we turn on the key. We were not getting a 12-volt supply after we turn on the key to these wires. Now coming down to the coupler, if we get a closer look over here, you see this one red and white wire where I'm pointing my finger over here. To identify this, what I did was I simply jumped this other end of this wire and with the tachometer, and what did I found? The tachometer jumped back to life. I just simply pulled this wire off and got to know that this wire is corroded and has broken off in the inside this casing itself. So what we will do here is we will strip this casing about 2 or 3 inches around here, find out the broken part, and we'll seal this wire in the joint over here. As you saw the video I just showed you, it was during the testing phase, and the tachometer you saw was cut into half. So at that time I just mentioned that I bypassed the ignition wire and gave the supply directly to the tachometer. Now as you can see, I'll give you a closer look. After stripping down this wire, you can see a lot of corrosion over here. Now this has probably due to the aging of this wiring, as the instrument cluster is the OEM that came with the factory fit, and these wires are almost 15 years old, so that was an obvious reason why this wires came off. So you can see over here. So we'll just put a crimping thimbles over here and seal the wires with the heat strings right here. So I've made a joint over here with a thimble and crimped it off, and I've attached a 1-inch extra wiring over here and I've crimped that as well. So I'm going to seal this wire with this heat shrink, and post this the outer casing will be covered up with the tape, and after this we will be returning to the tachometer. We'll simply attach it and test it right away. So now you can see this entire line is completely sealed off with a heat shrink and thimbles inside. So the tachometer is in place now, so we'll just attach the rear cover as well. And for the fuel gauge, I mentioned previously, if you have to check the fuel gauge if it is working fine or not. Now currently my tank has about 2 to 3 liters of fuel inside, so I'm not sure if the needle will be showing any kind of a deflection over here. But if you have to check if the needle is working fine, your fuel gauge is working fine, you can do one thing, is you have to take a piece of a wire, and on the right side panel you can see there is one specific coupler that will be running all the way from the fuel tank, beneath the fuel tank over here, this one. Okay, so you just need to detach the coupler, and the one which is coming from the wiring harness of the motorcycle, you will see the female joints over here. All you need to do is simply short this 2 couplers, and now if you check the fuel gauge, you'll notice something. You can see the needle goes out to full all the way. As soon as I remove the wires, the short wire which I have done right now, the needle goes back to empty. Now this is the basic way you can test if your fuel gauge is working fine or if there is an issue with the sensor itself. All you need to do is find this coupler that runs all the way from the fuel tank sensor. So what we'll do, we'll just attach it back. Now just to be sure, I'll show you simply by turning on the key. You can see the needle is all the way to the E. If I turn the key on, you can see there is a slight deflection over here. That means the fuel gauge is completely working fine, and also the sensor. So our wiring is correct. Now this small deflection is usually due to the low fuel levels. As I mentioned, it is hardly 2 to 3 liters of fuel inside the tank. That's why. If I switch it off, the needles fall back. One more thing. If you have noticed over here, you can see these 3 extra couplers. Now usually if you try to open the seat of a Thunderbird Twinspark or a Thunderbird 350, you won't be seeing these couplers just beside the RR unit and the TCI unit. So what are these 3 doing over here with all this wiring? Stay tuned to Mr. Chrome Stallion and I'll let you know in the upcoming videos. Till then, we'll just put my seat back and reattach all the bolts and assemble all the things which I have dismantled right now. So now we have a seat backrest, everything assembled right back, and as well as our tachometer right in place. As you can see, the back cover is also installed. So our issue is fixed over here and the wiring is all good. So for more updates and such fixed videos, stay tuned. Please follow, share and subscribe. Goodbye.